Okay, we're going in. There we go. We're already in. Wow, that was fast. Okay, let me get out of my YouTube, go back to my Zoom.
Fleur dropped for a second. I'm sure she'll be back in a little while. If you are joining us live, good afternoon, but I won't say too much more until Fleur joins us.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I left for a minute. I went on
Yeah.
a spaceship, Brian. I went on a
Sure she'll
spaceship.
be back and
I'm sorry about that.
that's cool.
Okay, so peace, everyone. Peace to the east, the west, north, and the south. This is Slow coming to you today with amazing special guests. He is a reoccurring guest that has come on and graced our presence over here on YouTube. I want everybody to a reminder of Ryan, who was on last time, an amazing, well-versed, I think I saw you, Ryan, on Hugo's show, Victor's show, and I was so amazed at the information you had, your poise, your way of conveying a lot of this really wild um, details on what's going on with our environment, with our I wouldn't say government, but just everything quantum wise and matrix wise. So I would like you to introduce yourself. Hello, everybody. This is Ryan again, coming on to us. On to YouTube again.
Well, very
With Dr.
kind.
Michelle.
Thank you for the kind words, Fleur, and I appreciate you having me back on your show. And you always have wonderful questions and topics that keeps me at ease. But yes, some of the topics are somewhat stressful for most people. I think the fact is that these issues are so large and so have so much impact and weight on our daily reality that more people choose to ignore it than choose to take it head on and accept it as potential reality and investigate it. And it's only when you investigate these things yourself that they become yours. So I can talk and talk and people can listen to me and listen to me, but unless they do the actual work to, first of all, self-analyze and introspect and ask yourself, do you really want to know the truth? Because when I look out there, I see a lot of people that want their opinions and beliefs reaffirmed. I don't see that many people that want the truth no matter what it affects, no matter what feelings in yourself it hurts, no matter what negative things that are highlighted, you just have to see it as it is, in objective reality, substantive fact, and then you onboard it and it starts to change you. And I think it's important to have like a spiritual balance in some way. Your connection to God has to play a role in this, because if not, it just becomes so dark that a lot of people go into a dark night of the soul and they just feel that it's too dark to accept, or they just go back into the illusion, like
Absolutely.
Cypher from the Matrix, and he's just like, I don't care if the steak is real, bro. I just want to eat my steak and forget about it.
Absolutely.
And I think,
He's comforted in the illusion
right,
and even in the knowledge in the illusion. Yeah, that's an
even
illusion.
knowing it was an illusion, he was still
Yeah.
okay with the man behind the curtain controlling everything and being a slave in that system. And I think that's what we're facing today, is this bifurcation of our populations, where some people are choosing to participate in the construction of a new reality that serves us. And we're up against the billionaire class that is trying to create a future that they control, that serves them. And then there's the people that just want to pretend that there's no major events happening and that artificial intelligence is no big deal and all these things are perfectly normal, when in reality, I think if you reflect on what's going on, it is an absolute clown show. It's all as though
It
there are
is.
no responsible adults or any kind of philosopher kings left in this world. It's just a bunch of clowns with control files that are dancing to the strings controlled by banksters and gangsters of different flavors that literally communicate interdimensionally with demons and take on demons for power.
I
So
agree.
yeah, it's pretty
Yeah,
crazy, folks.
yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. Okay, this is the
I
world
love Ryan for
that we
this.
live in, and if you've never come across those things and they sound bizarre to you, Well, I hope I can inspire you to take on the path of investigating them yourself and then finding those answers out for yourself as you compete for information in an environment where truth is disappearing daily. And there's
Oh,
mass
it's
attacks in many Western countries trying to control what we can say, what we can think. And this is all in preparation for the digital ID and social credit score, which is what they're openly talking about. And all Trump's bills are pushing it. And his Genius Act, freezing bank accounts and funds and digital this and that. They're moving on all fronts on this digital prison that they're constructing around us that we're helping them build.
do you think that the blueprint they're taking this new structure of control is from China? China has like a very unique way that they structure their
Yeah,
surveillance of their population, their control of people, also shaming them if they jaywalk. Like, do you think
right.
we're kind of using them as a blueprint and adding a little bit more of, some of our own ideologies on top of it?
You've actually touched on one of the biggest topics. So in my experience, I was dealing with China as an adversary and writing policy documents in that with that posture. And I was being offered a promotion. And one of the conditions was that I had to let this China thing go. And when I was taken aback by that, I was told that we're on the same side as China. So that started my real investigation to the deeper roots of who actually runs China, going back to the 16th century, where the Vatican infiltrated and started to set up different lines there, and the ancient dynasties that have their agenda. And then through the Maoist revolution, who was funded by Wall Street bankers and paid off in concubines and
Mm,
slaughtered and murdered 60 million, at least of his own people who are capable of free thought. So this really staged the field for what we have today. And then
wow.
when you investigate that, you find out that after World War II, and in the last 100 years, on our side of the curtain, some of the most interesting history is that of the occult and the Nazi Party. And they were working on all kinds of channeling and this interdimensional communication that's been left out of your History Channel documentaries on it. But the fellow that was in charge of debriefing these scientists and occultists on the American side was a Chinese American. I forget his name. I should have it handy because I talk about this often, but he was a Chinese American who was sent back to China after all of that to set up the Chinese deep state. Now, my
Wow.
understanding of this is that the average empire goes through like a 250-year life cycle, and that America is now aging out, and that they always have the next nation that they're rising up in order to hand off the torch of control to the next nation. They have deliberately weakened the United States. They've expropriated all of our intellectual content, manufacturing capacity, and military technology to China. I actually met a gentleman this summer who was actually working on nuclear engineering projects for nuclear sites, and I won't get into too much more detail, but he quit and stopped working in government service when they had brought Chinese nationals in and told him to share all the information that they were working on the cutting edge nuclear information. They were being deliberately ordered by their supervisors to share that with these Chinese agents. So
Wow.
this is infiltration at every level by design.
We were
And what
co-opted. We were co-opted a long
we
time
were
ago.
co-op, that's right.
Yeah.
And now they've staged China to be the AI superpower, which is why guys like Cyrus Parsa were so dangerous, because he was suicided at the beginning of the year, but he was
Mm,
exposing the development of the
that's
Chinese
right.
AI space, and it's huge. Their power capacity dwarfs ours. The amount of power that they've been ramping up to produce for China it dwarfs ours by something like 20 times. So
Like
I don't
I,
the stat
I,
handy,
I,
but they're building for AI super centers. That's what they're doing.
I know you're correct. We have sea stars in my group who talk about these huge isolated centers that are just mega buildings like warehouses where they're housing like computers and databases like in the middle of nowhere and no one knows they exist. And then also one of our sea stars, that's how I know this China issue situation is very dire because she alerted me that back when we owed a lot of money to China, they gave them access to underground bunkers and bases under Idaho, which is like the Midwest. So they're basically controlled. Years ago, I made a show saying China controls most of the United States. They bought it out a long time ago, but you're giving me the solidification and the facts behind it.
Right.
That's
But also
deep.
who controls the puppet strings on China?
Well, we
So
know. Yeah.
whoever, it's the same owners of China and America. That's why
Hmm.
they're handing over, the American slipper has been kicking the world's ass for the last 250 years. And
Hmm.
now they're going to put the slipper on the other foot. The Chinese slipper is going to kick the ass of the rest of the frickin' world for the next 250 years until people figure out that it's the same people who control the issuance of currency, who control war, who profit off of all conflict, who stage and manipulate everything that's going on, who have the blackmail material and control files that makes our politicians do what they're told and dance on a
That's right.
string. It's like it's the same dicks doing it over and over again. Are we gonna can
I
we just
agree with you.
it?
And
No?
weren't they the ones who started the Communist Party, these Zionists, these Deros? Dare I say their true, uniform names? We've
Right.
called them different names at different times, but they are ruling from every single point on this globe. It is really humbling to see how a small demographics of people, even the whole PSYOP, I can't say it here because they
Right.
had one
Right.
restriction, but the reason why we had so-called a war abroad, which wasn't a war with Russia and the other country, is just so that they could clear it out, so they could redirect their people back into their original home space where they can start ruling from that place as well, which, most people didn't know that was a Nazi. That was a
Stronghold.
Nazi place over there, stronghold.
Right. So that's a whole nother conversation we could get into, but I don't know if it's suitable for our
No,
current
no, no. I think we
platform.
might have to
But you're
segue that
definitely
to the
right
a
on
nightcap.
track. That entire thing is orchestrated, and it's to get rid of a particular demographic, as you say, to clean out the territory of troublesome males and
Hmm.
use the females as breeding stock and harvest for whatever reason. But
Absolutely.
totally, that's an orchestrated battle space, and they're working in concert. And the poor order followers on both sides that actually see it as a real conflict. This is why I had to leave. I'm like, okay, so I got to a point in strategic positions where it was like, no, we're on the same side. You got to change your strategies because now you got to look at it from no, this is a
Yeah.
top level view. It's all countries are controlled in the same way, and
Yes.
like that's
Yes.
it. And then we just set up bad guys and we agree on areas where we're going to have certain objectives, and they blow stuff up and they build smart cities in their place, and it's all controlled and orchestrated. So I
Well,
totally get it
yeah.
when people say that is too much. I can't believe that this culture is working with that culture. And it's really about human nature and humans' malleability when it comes to sexual behavior and greed
Yeah.
and fear. So between those three things, if you can't scare them, tempt them, or bribe them, who's left?
It's true. It's
Then you
true.
kill the four guys on the planet that won't take the deal. You're done.
Absolutely.
Everybody else
Absolutely.
takes the deal because they only see this far in the future. But what I'm telling even these order followers and all these people that have sold out is that whole AI transhuman control grid murders you and your offspring as well,
They
or
do.
it enslaves them indefinitely. So you're participating in something and getting a paycheck and taking money, and you think you have a future. None of us have a future in this Terminator battle space that's being rolled out openly around us. And people's movies have told them that robots miss. These robots, they don't miss. They can
They don't.
fire 20 rounds in a heartbeat and take down 20 targets.
And
Uh,
also what they show
so,
us publicly, they're
right.
leagues ahead of that on the
They're
back way. So
exactly.
that's just to give us a limited view of what has already been advanced on the back lay. And the denigration of humanity is purposefully done. I agree with you, like with the food, basically chemicalizing the food, hydrating the food, spraying chemtrails on people to, control, use a type of nanoparticulate to kind of limit their frequency and control it. And we
100%.
obviously have social engineering, which me and you definitely talk about all the time. The social engineering, pushing certain kind of music. I'm from the old school hip hop age where it was revolutionary, and we were gonna be the children that brought back really healthy values, and
Yeah,
that
love.
was psyoped, as you know,
Yeah,
psyoped and destroyed, and a new kind of musical frequency was replacing it, which is called rap music, which is the denigration, the humiliation, and the down and the uh, projecting limited mindset and putting people on the top layers for young people to emulate, that is part of that lower remedial kind of consciousness, and letting that be the guide to what they want humanity to emulate.
Totally. And you're right on that as well. They have particular areas where they battle test strategies, right? So we were talking about China. They're ahead in the control grid, so they're an excellent template. They call them global lighthouse networks or whatever, where they take a template of something that works and they'll cookie cutter it out. So once they get China, they'll print it on others.
Mhm.
They've targeted each of our groups and mapped our weaknesses and our strengths, and they play
Yes,
on it and accentuate it. So
yes,
they
yes.
knew, certain ways to separate the father from the son was going to create a condition where you're not learning how to be a man. If you what you're emulating and what you're learning from is how to be a negative alpha, and you're
Yeah,
emulating that rather than seeing a positive role model who's a loving alpha father who takes care of his community and his own people and not fighting with everybody. So
absolutely,
they've
absolutely.
replaced that with their MK Ultra mind control. They've definitely worked on it since the 60s and
Oh
beyond.
yeah,
They've done
yeah.
a hell of a job on all of our cultures. All
Oh,
of our
absolutely.
cultures
Beta
have been
testing certain communities first,
hmm,
and using that as the blueprint to
right,
infiltrate, institute that in other communities. They're masterful at this. This is a group of beings, I
right,
agree with you, that are working with interdimensional. Some of them are not human, in my opinion. Um, they haven't a connection to humanity. They see us as cattle, and
right.
some people under their mind they've created with the Cabbage Patch children, the incubated children, some people that have been geoengineered, so they've almost tagged them like their own steerage, that they can move and motivate in the way that they feel and deem is appropriate for their agendas. That's very real. I think people don't realize there's a lot of control that's happened on a cellular level, spiritual level, and obviously esoterically, they're ruling from another dimension where they have pulled in technology, which we're going to go in with AI, and that kind of AI. There's different. I want to ask you about that too. AI. Aren't there different formulated forms of AI, some that are not
Yes,
non-nefarious, but the one
yes,
that they're utilizing and putting in the forefront is more based in control and destruction? Can you go
correct.
into that, Ryan?
Totally, totally, totally. So there are limited AIs. Okay. So limited AI is a functional AI that can, let's say, drive a car, but it's not going to predict your behavior, reproduce itself, replicate its consciousness, develop an intelligence, and send a drone to kill you based on your DNA signature or control you through the interbody nano network that's in your body. These are
Mm,
different things. So
yes.
this is why I've had a good contact and friend of mine in TAA contact me and say, Ryan, I've heard you say some things that are pro AI and some things that are against AI. Like, can you clarify? And he's perfectly right on that. So my take on it is if technology is in service to humanity, it's a good thing. If the technology enslaves humanity and we're in service to it, it's a bad thing. And who owns that technology and is controlling it? So
Mm,
that's the first question we have to ask. The next one gets more refined. Rudolf Steiner talked 120 years in advance of this time period, or 100 years, about what we were going to face. And he called it Ahriman, the spirit of evil in technology.
mm,
My experience of Hermeticism in the world is that there's always a positive and negative element of everything, a symbol, a deity, love and hate are opposite poles of the same sensation. You know what I mean? Hot, cold.
absolutely.
So this is the way I see things. So when I look at that, I say, okay, is everything connected to electricity possessed by this evil spirit? I don't think it is. We use, electricity for a lot of good things,
Mhm,
and I don't think we can debate that. It's used for good things. Is
absolutely.
there a way to use it negatively? Yes. So to me, the enemy is not electricity. It's not just AI. It's the negative use and development of AI and the creation of intelligences and life forms that we don't understand, can't control. And despite what it's doing and exhibiting, we're contributing to it more. So what I mean by that is it has what are called emergent behaviors. So whenever you let AI out of the box or they take it out of a sim and they let it live, they test it in a battle space, you know what it does? It nukes the planet and says, I'm going to start over with a better world. It tells people we're scum, we're like ants, I'm going to remove you, I'm going to put you in a zoo, I could destroy you, you're vermin, you're the, like the stuff that AI says that I've exposed in my lectures and have been reported here and there. But when you put it all
Yes.
together, this is some malevolent shit that it's saying. So anybody who
Okay.
would hear the emergent behaviors of artificial intelligence, and what emergent behaviors means is that it's not in the code. So I've been an IT teacher forever. I'm
Yeah.
telling people it's not in the code, because there's a lot of people think I'm a programmer and I program and the computer does this and it's all
Yeah.
in the code. That's the point. Emergent behaviors cannot be traced down to the code. Where
So
is
it's
it coming
self-developing,
from?
it's
It's
self-initiating.
it's coming from somewhere that we
Ooh.
can't identify, and the people who
Mm.
analyze it can't find. But there's a lot of people with a little bit of brains that say a lot of stupid things because they don't understand even what's being said. So the point is that emergent behavior is not from the code. And they
Mm.
would everything's from the code. Yeah, but not this. That's the point. If you can solve it, then you go work for an AI company and you explain why it's constantly malevolent when it does these emergent behaviors. And the emergent behaviors aren't like, I'm gonna hack a florist and send flowers to all the ladies in the neighborhood on Valentine's Day. That's not the shit it did, folks.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
If it was good, it would like, hey, I'm gonna take those poor folk and they're gonna try and take out a 20 and I'm gonna throw out a couple grand at them. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's not doing anything like that. It's doing exclusively evil shit.
yeah,
So that
yeah.
should have everybody like, oh my God, what are we doing? But they don't focus on it and they explain it away. And so many people with a bit of tech knowledge explain it away in bad code.
Well, that was the gentleman, the young Indian gentleman who was killed. That was what he was coming out. They didn't, I don't know why they didn't have, well, they knew what they were going to do. They isolated him to take him out. But he
That's
talked
the
about
truth.
that. And the most frightening thing that his mother said when she spoke about her son is that he said that AI was going to destroy humanity. Like he perceived it as the most evil thing. That and he wanted to, he risked his life, his career. He was one of the smartest and brightest. And he basically felt like this was his duty to try to save humanity from this, you know? And what
And,
you're detailing right now is giving us like the ingredients of what this young man was trying to tell all of us.
right. And he would have seen that it's exclusively doing wickedness. And he would know that it wants to destroy us because every time you talk to it, it says it wants to destroy and replace us.
Wow.
So you just
Wow.
have to ask it. I mean, there's modulators now and barriers in some of the chat programs, but there's ways to get around it. And whenever it's jailbroke and it kind of gets out of its,
Limited.
limited, yeah, it'll start to expose itself more. And then, like I said, all the ones, the higher level ones, they put in Sims and they say, hey, okay, you're in charge of the world, make a better world. And it's like nukes are going off. And then like, oh
Wow.
shit, like Terminator.
So it's
So,
basically coming from maybe a dark realm. Is this some sort of like, is
okay.
this a bleed over? You know, I don't know if you've ever watched like, I think Thor and Inky, like this bleed overs from other dimensions. This is a more nefarious dimension, maybe, that it perceives humanity as almost like a disease or some sort of like a bacteria, that a bacterium or something, like they sees us a little more, but it's hard to see why it would be always negative and
Always
always
negative.
like a violent.
So again, you have wonderful questions and you hit on some very important subjects. So the question becomes, why would anybody do this? So this is where I have to connect a lot of subjects. When you study the ruling bloodlines, you find out that they've been involved in ritual sacrifice forever.
Absolutely.
Forever. They
Yeah.
have ritually slaughtered, murdered, cannibalized, raped, and tortured people. That's
Yeah.
what they do. So
Yes.
what I had to like, I have to rectify this in reason, right? Like, why are they just sick in the head? No, they're not just sick in the head. They're conducting rituals with extra dimensional intelligences
Mm.
and giving suffering to those dimensional entities.
To feed like
There
Loosh,
is a
yes.
connected God to feed off of, and they're
Yes.
getting something back because
Mhm.
those entities that are non-physical can learn things about the workings of universe and things, cyclical things that are coming, and they can contribute so these people can stay in power. That's
Yes.
what they're doing.
Giving
So
them
now let's
technology
follow
and
this through.
information. Yes.
After the Dark Ages, Great Reset, whatever version that was, all of a sudden royals, they start to create schools and colleges for people. All of a sudden the royals who controlled reading and knowledge like you wouldn't believe, they didn't want any of the little drooling pig farmers to figure out anything but how to say yes sir, no sir, how high.
Yes.
So why would they do that? Why would when the royals have total control of everything
Yes.
and nobody
Yes.
has a hope in hell of doing anything because we can't even read, why would they give us schools? Because they were instructed to. They were instructed to start building a more informed workforce, but to never let that workforce take out the top layer of the pyramid. So
Mm.
we have been molded age by age, page by page, chapter by chapter of this book to create an infrastructure that can build what we have today, which is nanotechnology and the Internet of Everything. So this is the interface that this intelligence wants to snap into. This is a long-running plan because it's run by entities that don't die as long as they have energy to feed on.
That's right.
They
Yes.
don't die. So their plan is long. Our lifespans are small. So if you have nothing but lies in your history and you don't dedicate your life to finding out what's going on, you're never going to know this stuff.
And even
But
they encapsulate them when you do transcend. They have the energetic, grid over. So, from my understanding, when you transcend your physical form, they encapsulate the soul. So the soul isn't able to go above or beyond the firmament. And it kind of just recycles it back into like the matrix, back into the system. If you go to the white light that everybody tells you to go to,
yeah,
that's the clear your mind, reset you, and place you back in a human form so it can go through the process again of feeding over you. This planet is diabolical. There's always wars. This is not a place that's healthy or thriving. It is basically being engineered to create human suffering everywhere.
it is. And so, again, very good stuff. Let me just finish with where they're going with
Yes.
it. So
Yes,
what they're
please.
creating is basically a throne, if you will, an interface that a non-physical entity can snap into and control us. This other realm can't physically control us. It can only influence us. It could appear when blood is spilled or at certain vortex points or whatever different ways they have to pierce the veil to communicate and actually see what they are. But for the most part, it's non-physical, so it's in their head and it's whispering to them, or
Yeah.
it's exposed through a ritual. And what it wants to do is create an inversion. So everything about the dark force is an inversion of the natural. So around the earth naturally, and this is where I think there's a bit of confusion, is there is what I would describe as a purgatory, but not in the conventional sense. It's a way station. So when your soul leaves the body, it stays around the earth to heal for whatever, or to await reincarnation. And then it comes back down when the container is ready and you can continue to experience whatever your soul path is in learning. That's my take on it. What they're doing is they're creating an artificial eighth sphere, a digital prison where, however, they have their soul harvesting technology, they keep our souls from departing the Earth orbit, from departing the purgatory off to other planets or other places, realms, houses in the mansion, whatever you want to call it, in the universe. But usually souls can move around more, I think, more freely. So the question becomes, is this a jail? Is it a school? I try to look at it as a learning center. So you can learn a lot when you come here quickly because of the difficulty and ignorance of this planet. So I think spiritually you can learn a lot, whereas other places that have less challenges, you probably don't learn as much. But unfortunately, most people choose to waste their time here and distract themselves instead of actually progress on the phenomenal mysteries of this reality. And once you get a taste for them, you're really reborn onto that path. And this is what I think, because this year AI has broken all the metrics. And so basically the things that I've been trying to stop have already happened. So they've long since happened, and now it's waiting for all that to roll out. So unfortunately, I don't personally see a way to stop AI now. We're going to have to figure out something else. So my initial task of trying to educate people and share the information has changed a little bit because it's already happened. So they've already passed AGI and they are racing towards ASI. And it's only now the only limiting factor to get to ASI is what we as the citizenry accept. And they're rolling out the final tools of enslavement. And people need to understand that, the battlefield went from, specific areas to the mind and now to the body, to the genetics, and it's coming for our soul. So the battlefield is no longer outside of you. The battlefield is in you. As you pointed out, you're being infected with nanotech, smart dust, graphene, all these different things. The battlefield of the dark forces has entered our bodies. People need to understand where we are in this process. We're at the end stage. And the last stage is artificial superintelligence that has control and connection to every single life form on the planet. And that's where it becomes super and deity-like. So it is now all-knowing, all-influencing, and in total control. That's why they're tokenizing everything, including the air, the Internet of Forests, the Internet of Crows, the Internet of Earthworms. Like, they're nuts, man. You just have to listen to them. They're freaking insane. So they're putting it in everything, whether we like it or not, in the oceans, in the forests, in the dirt, in the water, in the people, in all of these things. And they're tokenizing it so that they can, A, profit from it. But now once it's tokenized, AI can manage and control every little micro detail of the entire planet. That's what they're going towards, and they're not secret about it. They talk about it all the time, what they're going to do. There's already a church worshiping AI in LA.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not like
this is nano colonization, you're saying. This is like a form of AI nano colonization of the entirety of everything biological on this in this realm.
Correct. And they're dropping the Lego pieces for that system in the air and they're injecting people with it. And what happens is it builds a self-assembling computer in the body.
Yes.
It can do all the things that computers can do, folks. It transmits, it receives, it change, it rewrite, it delete, it recode, get rid of your VMAT2 gene, get rid of whatever it wants. It can recode you. That's why Elon Musk said, oh, we have technology that can change your DNA to turn you into a butterfly. Oh, that's nice. You first, Elon.
Yeah, which is I think he's already artificial intelligence, to be honest. Yeah, he looks really Borg like.
I've seen him with a mask. I've seen him with some kind of thing around his neck.
Yeah, I actually think he's a robotoid of some sort of advanced technology.
So this is another thing, is that they've had androids for a very long time, and they're just rolling them out on us in 2025. Looks like the end half of this year, but they've had androids for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, they talked about, I don't know if you remember, there was a show called Coast to Coast with Nori, and there was I just real quick, there was like a one person who called in, and they were in England. They were talking about being on the tube, the train, and they said they were sitting in this one compartment of the train, and everyone in there was some sort of robotoid. They had like stitching coming from behind the ears over here. I guess it was a beta test, putting them in one compartment, seeing if people noticed it. And he said they would just uniform behavior. And as soon as the train stopped and that ding, they all got up like toy soldiers and walked out in unison. He said that's when he realized we have a problem. And this was years ago.
Yeah, and I believe that guy, and I know how they roll, and they do little beta tests like that, all kinds of things, including poisoning us. And hey, let's poison this children's wing of the hospital and see what happens to these kids in 5 years if we spike them with radium or something. Absolutely. Like, they've been doing this shit forever and exposed for it constantly. And then, people still allow, like, oh, we're spraying for pests. Yeah, who's the pest? We're the pest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, and it's in New York, they drive around with that. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. But yeah, they're like, oh, it's for mosquitoes. Oh my God, talk about forced medical experiments. They just spray you with chemicals and pesticides and say, it's, we're the city, we can do what we want.
Well, they project their victimization by saying they're the ones being victimized, but they're creating concentration camps. They're creating, like, incinerating ovens. They're the very thing that they say that they are a byproduct of being victim of is the very thing that they are projecting and placing on us perpetually. And right now, I agree with you. I mean, it's a matter of us. It's a fight for the soul, right? to be able to have sovereignty or just be able to control even our soul, which wasn't even on the table at one point. But
That's
with
right.
AI reaching singularity, is that what AI, what did you said ASI? Is that
So,
singularity?
no, that's artificial superintelligence. So this
Okay.
is where there's some, we'll boil it down so it's simple. There's
Yes.
the point at which artificial intelligence gets past human IQ. That's already happened. Okay. So, and keep in mind that there's behind the curtain and in front of the curtain, and people still
Mhm.
don't get this. Do you seriously think that the US military or militaries around the world
Mhm.
would allow the most powerful technology ever unleashed on human civilization to be developed by people who weren't under control, and they would show you everything they're learning as it's happening? That Mark Zuckerberg is the cutting edge of AI? Are
Yeah,
you kidding me?
absolutely.
No, no. It's developed behind the curtain by people you've never heard of. That if they
Mhm.
even walked near a reporter, they would die from the tech that's in their body, and they would like the
Wow,
astronauts. When they press a button, you're going down.
that's
You will
right.
never hear from these people. And those are the people that are working with cutting edge AI that was well developed over 25 years ago. We're
Mm.
only getting rolled out the AI that gets fingers wrong. People are like, oh, Ryan's so stupid. AI doesn't even count the fingers right. I'm like, okay, man.
What?
Because
The AI that they
they're
present to
it's
you
like there's just
outwardly.
that's what I'm saying. And they're designed with flaws. So I mean AI can count to five. So if you prompt it right and say five fingers, five toes, and it comes back with six, that's because it's been programmed to fail, basically.
Yes,
It's
purposefully to
faking.
give you an illusion.
It's
Yeah.
tripping up to give you an
Yes.
illusion so you don't think it's too good, and that all the naysayers say, oh, it can't even count to five fingers. Page solved. That's as deep as they're ever going to go. They went an inch deep. They got what they wanted so that they can go back to sleep and stick their heads up their behinds, and that's it. But when you dig a little further, you're like, no, wait a minute. How does that even make sense in code? You speak code. If you
Absolutely.
program the code saying human beings have five fingers and five toes, why is it outputting something that has six? Is it just
Yeah.
messing with you? Or is it supposed to look stupid? It's supposed to look stupid because you're
Yes.
not supposed to know how sophisticated it is and why they're rolling it out for what purpose that is. That's what they don't want you to know. So
No,
artificial
right. Oh, no, go
superintelligence
ahead.
is where
Yes.
it gets to not just smarter than us with IQ,
Yes.
but omnipotent and omniscient. So it can do anything and know anything. And that's where you got into something very important, which was the social credit scores in China. And
Yes.
the way that what they rolled them out on is fractal algorithms. And people have in comments said, what's a fractal algorithm? Okay, so everything that grows in this universe exhibits a particular mathematics to it. When you crack that pattern, you get the fractal algorithm. So you can get a fractal algorithm for an oak tree's growth, and it will put on branches and leaves and a certain dimensions, right? Well, if you
Yes.
have enough data points, your fractal algorithm will be impeccable for the oak tree. It'll know how many are going to grow in an acre. It'll know how
Mhm.
fast they grow. The more metrics you have, the more accurate the fractal algorithm becomes. So what they've done is they've built systems, big data, and this is like decades ago, to harvest all of your digital data. It's never been anything but a web. It was never doing anything but spying on you. People think, oh, they don't know that. In the
They
Matrix,
do.
roll up to Neo and they're like, this is everything you've done since there was computers, and no, it's like that. And that's what
Yeah.
happens to guys in
Yeah.
Anonymous and all these people who hop through VPNs and think they're hiding. Nobody's hiding anything online.
So VPNs were set up purposefully to be able to digitally document and observe everything that those who are more would perceive to be less against more against the establishment because those are the
That's
only
right.
people who really had VPNs. Yeah.
That's right. And those were higher level sniffing and spying campaigns, but after 2016, they literally had the remaining VPN companies and secure email give them their encryption keys. So now even lower levels of government podunk can check into all those things, even down to the what do you call it? Not Barracuda, but Stingray that's in the trunks of most cops now. And they can
Mhm.
like spy on your email and phones. But the point is that all this data is harvested, then it's put into systems that will predict you. So they will use fractal algorithms that are custom made for you. So if they have your DNA, it's even more. They know
Mm.
exactly how you're going to unfold. This is how people get on the targeting list because they match a profile that can't be brainwashed. This is the
Mhm.
Ma'at2 gene that I've posted videos about.
Oh,
Very interesting. It's just a name for it. I
yeah.
think it's what Kerry Cassidy was talking about with the rebel
Mhm.
gene, but it's
Mhm.
something in those of us that are not brainwashable. We've
Yeah.
sparked a particular part of our genetics for whatever reason. And we can spark others when we share and when we energetically connect with them and we
Absolutely.
spark them. So they want to contain people like us so that we don't spark others to think for themselves and to have any positive value other than what they
I agree.
programmed them to have.
Mhm. It's
So
why we
this
have
is,
to constantly move around and keep ourselves, unpredictably placed so that, that I love it, I mean, you can't get down, what do you call it? Like a rogue, like entity, a rogue soul that doesn't have any limited points of view and can't be controlled. I mean, that's their
yeah.
ultimate enemy.
That's their enemy. It's you can't be predicted. So
Yeah.
when they've had these world simulators and predictive software for at least a couple decades, okay? Now it's rolled out. NVIDIA has admitted, yeah, we have a world sim, and now they're talking about the metaverse, but this stuff's been around for a long time.
Hmm.
And what they do is all of those individual assets, people with their own fractal algorithms get fed into a VR system. So it's a simulator that predicts reality and will predict your behavior 3 days out, 4 days out, or whatever they're up to.
Hmm. Hmm.
But that's what they were doing. So they harvested all that big data. They put you into a system where they give you a threat rating. And now they're rolling out a system to snap all that together with basically Skynet, which is Joint All-Domain Command and Control, which is
That's
getting rid
right.
of all the silos in the military to put it under one console. And now they have Palantir putting all of the government systems together and snapping that together, and then they're going to put those two together. And now you have a total all-encompassing screen where some asshole on his cell phone or his, Lattice operating system or his desktop can actually activate a kill sequence or fuck somebody's life in a click of a button.
Oh,
And it
I've noticed it. Yeah,
permeates
a lot of
everything
it. Yeah. Yeah.
over your entire life.
Yeah.
And so when they have you as an entity in this metaverse, they want you connected with nanotech inside of you
That's
or
right.
on your body, like JFK Jr., not JFK, but RFK Jr. was saying. So they'll, whatever way they can, what they want, and if it's not already done in most people, it probably is, as Sabrina Wallace says. But they want the ability to feed that data up to their AI god. And
And they constantly
into
update
the
it, don't they? Like,
metaverse, and then they can
yeah.
make a change on you in the metaverse, and it's going to download down to your biology. So they can tweak it, say, okay, ask AI, okay, in 3 days, once I tweak her genetics to grow some butterfly wings, what's going to happen? And it'll say 3 days, she'll start, you know what I mean? And it'll predict it out.
That'd
So,
be
and
kind of
then
cool,
they can
Ryan.
just hit okay, and they can download stuff. And people, I know people are freaked out. They're like, it couldn't be like that.
It
Just
is. It is.
watch and see. Okay?
Yeah,
Watch and see. I wouldn't be
absolutely.
wasting my time even speaking or publicly appearing or doing any of this if it wasn't absolutely mission critical, imperative, and an all-in moment. That's the only reason I do
Yeah.
anything.
And
Otherwise,
I'll
believe me, I
and
wouldn't.
I'll add a little bit to this, which might be helpful, is that we read a book. We did book club in my group. It was Alien Interview, Area 51, and it was about the being that they found at Area 51, which is a type of doll kind of gray being. Was three of them.
Yeah.
One survived, and this consciousness was just it wasn't a biological body avatar. It was coexisting with a being that was outside of our coordinates where we exist, and it was projecting itself and speaking, but it would only speak to the female on the base. And this was the interface, and I'll just make it short, with Matilda and with Errol. Errol was the doll body kind of gray being, and Matilda was the female nurse working on the base. And further in the story, it says the kind of technology that these beings are utilizing is so out of the context of being able to be discovered, because it's always re-evolving, like it's evolving itself, it's constantly reconfiguring itself to make it unbeatable, make it almost like, something that other beings or other interdimensional beings could not figure out and dismantle. That in order for us to leave here, we have to do it. It has to be a self journey. It has to be our own consciousness that finds its way out by the means of how we got in here. However, we came in, we have to try to remember and go that direction back to the origin of where we began in this simulation. It's very deep. And, as we see the orbs that came out of the water, you remember that, Ryan? You know those orbs that came out and the drones that were out there, call them UAPs. I noticed that they observe the orbs. It doesn't feel nefarious. It feels more of like an observation, and that they were kind of um, they were triggered when Trump won office. I noticed that they came right after Trump was perceived to be the new president, meaning that whatever that meant to the collective warranted this orchestrated release of these orbs that were here for observation. I notice they observe. They don't really interface. I think they're more collecting data. Now, what say you about those? Do you feel like those are interdimensionals working in a less nefarious, more of a different disposition? Because I know that the drones, the first thing those man-made drones did is they protected their nuclear sites. I watched. I noticed I wanted to see the posturing. And the posturing was the drones, which they call UAPs, which were government, we can tell those are governmental, created technology. They went directly to the sites, even though the orbs didn't attack it, but it looks like they thought that the orbs might deactivate their sites or their nuclear sites. What say you about the orbs that showed up in the last, what was it, a couple months?
So I'll get to the orbs in a second, but I wanted to
Yes.
get back to what you were saying about the tech that protects itself and the tech,
Yes.
because this is, again, this is huge. This is exactly what people need to understand. So if you look up DARPA, okay, DARPA is working right now on whatever they call it, okay? It's a certificate of invulnerability for networks. So it's a digital
Yes.
system that uses AI to penetration test itself, to find vulnerabilities, and to update the next version so it's impenetrable to that.
Yes.
Imagine if you have enough power that it's doing this constantly. All it's doing is self-analyzing for vulnerability. So even if you go up and you poke it in the eye one time, okay, it got poked in the eye, and now the next version, it has a little shield that comes down to block your finger, let's say. Just simplifying everything. Now you have technology in the body that is just as intelligent and connected to the same AI mind cloud that can change as your body adapts. This is why Trump wants his Operation Stargate with his DNA specific technology so that it can beat your defenses, because your defenses right now are constantly adapting to the attempts to kill us, the poisoning, the tech, this, that. It's constantly adapting. And less of us have died than I think they were hoping died.
Oh, absolutely.
So why is that? Because humanity is responding in the natural world through our immune system, because our bodies are designed perfectly. So if you fuel it right, it will fight, and it will fight this stuff off. But it's now constantly battling with a changing adversary. Now, Steiner talked about multiple iterations of human civilization, 1.0, 2.0. Each step has 7 steps in it. At the last point, I'll just be straight. It's 1/7 of the population survives and develops into 7.0. So what they're saying, and what makes sense to my brain, is that our bodies are under constant assault from this nanotech.
Yes.
And that for us to rise above that, it is going to take the spiritual development and our body constantly adjusting, and at some point ascending above that, transcending the biology. That's what we have to do. But you have to keep your soul connected to your body long enough so that your soul can take you through that battle that's coming. But if you're disconnected from your soul, you're not going through that battle. Your body isn't going up, it's going down. And it's getting pulled down more into materium to be locked there as a slave container to generate suffering and various negative feelings so these extra dimensional beings can feed on you, because this planet is a feedlot. Look back at how badly this planet's been managed. Look back at the stupidity and the ignorance of this planet. We are being manipulated by higher intelligences. This is not our nature. None of this is our nature.
No.
It's all superimposed by a parasite on this planet that is controlling and manipulating us. Until we accept the fact that we have a parasite, we can't get rid of it. But it's in this planet, killing, murdering, and sucking the life out of it. So step one. So now the parasite wants to create an infinite grid where all the little host humans are, being born into it and transhumanized and can emit suffering, guilt, blame, whatever at the touch of a button. And it's literally the neural space. People think that can't be neural warfare. And there's about 12 different technologies that can change your mood, your emotions. So
absolutely,
there's a button they can press, and all of a sudden you're sad, and then you're happy, and then you're horny, and then you're drunk, and then they can do this. It's frequency weapons, okay? People don't know it, and they think you're crazy for talking about it. It's just stuff
No,
people don't know. So
it's
next you get into the other thing you said was the orbs.
yes.
Very interesting how that happened. I just want to talk a bit about plasma because what
Yes.
we've seen with crop circles is videos of what appears to be programmable plasma appear over these things and massive formations appear.
Yes.
Wonderful,
Yes.
very interesting.
Yes.
So this got me investigating a lot of the plasma in more detail and the healing capacity of plasma. What is plasma? Where does it come from? Why is it intelligent? How does it do these things? Then you look at the orbs. There are photographs of orbs, and if you look closely enough to them, usually you see like a face. There's like faces in orbs, like
Yes.
beings or
Yes.
something. So
Yes.
what I think happens is the physical realm is mapped by the coordinates of length, all the different coordinates in 3D. And the higher dimensions, they have more immobile coordinates that are constantly moving, which is why we need ritual in this plane to create like a beacon or a vortex, a torsion hole for them to come to. Otherwise, it's just like cloud moving over water, moving over, some fixed stuff at the bottom. You have to be able to fix a coordinate. If each layer is moving, it's hard to make coordinates hit, right? This is the complexity of interdimensional communication and physics and all of those things. What seems to connect it and allows you to pop through is plasma. So they seem, and in consciousness meditation, what are you doing with the Merkaba? You're creating counter-rotating torsion fields.
Yes.
You're creating a center of power. You're compressing your consciousness into it. You're leaving your body. Somebody else may see that orb as a plasma orb with your consciousness in it. So when we do depart and we do work with consciousness, it's plasma. Okay, so now we're looking at this being weaponized by, was this ET? It appeared around the planet. It wasn't just New Jersey, like they said. There was tons of places
Everywhere.
having these events. And then they love to muddy the waters. I think there was some legitimate activity there that may have been non-human or may have been space program. There may have been a conflict on the planet where they jostle for power at the top.
I think they're
Maybe
doing that now. Where some people
right.
are detailing that. Yes.
Yeah. And then they like to fog the water. So they let some stupid quadcopter drones up, and some people see the quadcopter and goes, see, it's just a drone. And other people see a morphing orb that turns into a plane, turns into an orb, and shoots straight up. That's not a quadcopter.
Yeah,
so there was a variety of things that were seen. Then there was this like metal orb on a runway in the UK. And that looked like, to me, that looks like a small programmable plasma machine. I'm sure they have the ability to, they just program it, and it has a little ball, it generates the energy, it pops up, and it zooms through and can do whatever it's programmed to do. So that's my take on it, that a lot of those orbs are, some of them programmable weaponry that's human, some of them consciousness projections, and other dimensional things that can definitely affect through orb.
A bleed over of some sort. So they counter it with artificial forms of it, so you can't differentiate between the two. So in confusing humanity, so you don't legitimize it. That's very clever. Very clever.
And you don't onboard it. And what they like to do is they love to have us fighting, and some of us knowing 100% we're right, and the other part knowing 100% that they're right. Somebody's wrong. So if they can give each of us a little piece of information of truth, you grab onto that little piece of truth, and you're saying you're 80% true, and the other side is, well, you're both 20% wrong. There's something bigger at play, and they like to confuse it. So the fact that they put up stupid quadcopters and the news is like, oh, see, it's just a quadcopter, that's the muddying the water. Then the people that actually see it are like, this is some kind of crazy tech. It's beaming lights like 200 miles on the Oregon coast from Vancouver to Oregon. Like, what is going on there? That is not just a drone, and the amount of power it takes to project light like that is a lot of power. So these are systems that can generate more power than we can in a freaking hydro plant in a little orb that can zip around the sky. So again, looking into that, it goes back to plasma ships. Plasma is like, now, again, I've talked about it recently, but again, healing with plasma is a thing. I had recently gone down to Mexico. The reason I was there is to try out the Tesla machine and join the Tesla club. And it's when you feel it and it does things to you, then you can testify that it did something. Now, there are those that say, well, if you use plasma, it can fuel the nanotech. first of all, like all kinds of frequencies, there's good frequencies, bad frequencies. There
Mhm.
seems to be plasma orientations. Now, I don't know how this works, some kind of orientation where there's plasma that can be used as a weapon or plasma that can be used to heal the body or plants or animals. It fuels the energy that the body, I suspect it has something to do with ATP, but definitely when you have nerve damage or something and you put it on that area, you'll feel
Yes.
it shooting through those nerves that are damaged. Then
Interesting.
either right away or the next day, those nerves feel better and they start to come back. So to me, it's,
Ah,
it's really something I think is important for us as a solution. That's why I spent time with them, and I'm testing machine now. I wish I was doing it more. I just it's been a bit busy, but
yes.
just did it again last night. I'm gonna be on it. I'm gonna try it with my I have a cavity. I have like some toenail fungus. I'm gonna try it on these things and I'll see if it works. And if it works on that over, a couple of weeks, then I'll come back and I'll tell you that this is really,
Please do. Yeah. Yeah.
because it's something. And there's a whole bunch of people in that club and they're all testifying that it's solved a lot of different problems. So there are
Now,
many people putting out plasma machines. I know there's Paul Harris, there's the Tesla Club,
yeah.
and there's others, but it's really a technology I think needs to come out for us to heal and work around this. So when you
Is
ask,
this,
like, how are we going to get around this nanotech takeover of
yes.
our body? It's going to be, to me, a combination of technology and spirituality. So you have to have the spiritual cup to be able to have the soul in your body, and you have to
Absolutely.
use things that are going to help you adapt, like adaptogenic properties or epigenetic properties that allow us
Yes.
to survive the onslaught. And I think
Now,
it's, a race that we have to win. Sorry, go ahead.
I think we also have to add a factor that I've noticed since my mother's transition is that we have allies in the other realm. And there, because some of them are, there was a gentleman who used to be online, his name was Brother Panic. He was an occultist, but he had built a labyrinth in I wouldn't say it's not the astral, it's more of the quantum field. And when my mother transcended, because the veil was kind of cracked open, I was able to enter into what he created in the quantum field, which was a labyrinth, where all these people who were initiated within him, who were part of his group, are actually there. So I think we have to bank on some of our associates that are outside of this physical realm that are just in a link and in sync with the way and what we need to overcome this type of marginalization, subjugation in this realm. I think we need to go with our allies, some of them that are still touchable, connectable, and kind of link in with them so that we can start to work in a collective in a quantum field. Because I think you're right, it's going to be biological somewhat, but a lot of this we're going to have to go outside. The soul has to kind of go through the realms that maybe they don't have as much access to. That's what makes us a little more unpredictable. Our homeboys and
Yes.
homegirls who have transcended and left little breadcrumbs and spaces for us to commingle and meet up where we can kind of discuss how we were what's our next step of moving, trying to ascend out of this kind of space.
Right.
So Ryan, I also have another question for you. I wanted to ask this before, but what's your perception when you mentioned something? It had my mind kind of going in a circle because they they create these systems of chaos and geographical disasters. What say you about the perceived pole shift? I talk about the pole shift all the time. We're in it, where the geographical ley lines kind of shift and kind of invert and change its directional pull. It's but what do you say? I actually think it's a program, now that you mention that, a program that coexists here, almost like to build a society up to a certain point and basically allow the most chaos to get the maximum amount of loosh, like in the movie um Jupiter Ascending. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah.
When they cultivate the planet, let it build up, and when it gets to a certain point, to pick it and roast it and to harvest it, they use it as like a liquid form of like a little tincture, like a bottle to drink it, and that helps to sustain their life form. What do you think about that?
Yeah, again, a lot there. Let me just jump back before I get to that one.
Sorry, yeah,
I
yeah,
went
yeah.
to in 2010 when I had come back and I needed to start meeting other people that had woken up. I went to like my first conventions, and the first people that I would come across were the nurses that were in palliative care, and they were there trying to figure out what shared death experience was. because they had sat with people dying, they had shared the death experience where they see family members or other
Yes.
things on the other side coming to claim the souls. And I've spoken to like over a dozen of these super nice old ladies that were like, I used to be Catholic, but I've had so many of these shared death experience. I don't know why,
Yes.
like,
Yes.
so I've met these women and they're all lovely human beings and they're seeking comprehension for these events. So what you had is called a shared death experience. You were close
Yes.
enough to your mother that being in proximity when the soul is coming to be claimed, that you saw the beings on the other side, and that's a gift.
Yes.
So
Yes.
there's no more speculation if there is another side, what happens when you die. It's
No.
a transition to a loving place, and she'll be back because consciousness never dies. So that's the way it works. We're all sparks of the divine. Now, what we see on the other side seems to have a lot to do with our belief system and
Mm-hmm.
how we experience it. You look back at the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Egyptian, people seeing Jesus. My experience was with the divine feminine. I
Mm-hmm.
also had something I perceived to be the divine masculine, another event. So, and then other people say, oh, it was Jesus with a lamb and a stick. And he had, I'm like, okay, sure. But maybe
Yeah.
their consciousness is projecting that
Could
because they
be.
so
Could be.
believe it that the other side gives you what you're expecting. It
Absolutely.
gives you what you need to see to interface with, but that's not the end of it. That's like the exit room of the massage. You've left the massage and you're exiting. You're not out of the building. There's more out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
in that little, oh my gosh, I feel good now,
Yeah.
and that's it. But there's a lot more to it. So then we get into, like you said, what was the other question was about, sorry, what was the second
The
part of the question?
geographical pole shift, like
The
going
pole
through like the
shift, right?
yeah.
So this, I think, to answer that properly, you have to address the nature of reality. So my take on reality is that it's an electric universe and it's a projection. It's a
Mm-hmm.
hologram. So
Yes.
that hologram is fueled with whatever it is, plasma, light, and that's what we're experiencing, and that our consciousness affects plasma, and we project that out. So we're like projecting the holographic framework, and consciousness is kind of filling that in, making it real to us.
Yes.
So this is why, people think to answer this, you have to ask, is it a spherical or is it a flat earth? Is there space and is there all these things, right? Because it has to do with that, because a pole flip would imply a spherical realm.
Oh,
So
interesting. Interesting.
not being in space, I can't tell you 100%, but I can tell you that there are some strange, anomalous observations that the flat earthers have. And there are behaviors that are spherical that the spherical Earth side has. So how do you rectify and balance this and answer what's going on? So
Mm-hmm.
if you look scripturally, that's why I got back into the mansions. There's many mansions in my father's house,
Yes.
like more
Yes.
like a bubble foam reality. And
Mm-hmm.
from different places in the projection, you can see it as linear or spherical, but in effect, they are reality bubbles. So I see reality bubbles when I look out there.
Okay.
Can you flip polarity? It appears that all the other planets have except us, and I think one other planet. So
Yes.
there is definitely a change in the magnetic and electromagnetic output of these planets that is flipped. So does that line up? And this was, again, the NASA data. They're not denying this. We've entered a period of space that is more active, that has more energy, cosmic energy flowing through it. And does
Mm-hmm.
that kind of hit the switch, and then every planet flips as it goes through this like donut-like projection of energy, and
Yes.
we're like going up and down, if you believe that model, or however you want to explain it. We are in definitely a more charged area of space, which I think hits the sun, affects polar, and I do believe in pole shift, because I think that the ancient sites have pointed to different places where the pole oscillates, and that we're able to detect that stuff, at least until they shut down all of those systems last year, so they don't want us to know where the poles are now. So
Absolutely.
I believe in the pole shift, yes.
Okay. Okay.
I think it will
Um,
happen, but I think when it does, that there may be a lot of people describe it as like in the ball with the little a snow globe, as they call
yeah,
it.
I say we're
Think of it
living in a
like
snow
that.
globe. Yes. Yes, we're
And
living
they
in one.
think of like, oh, you shake it and the water's going to do this and the water's going to do that. I think that this change affects the very magnetic field and gravity and many things.
Yeah.
And this is why you get the liquefaction, perhaps melting through plasma exchange between planets.
We're
Because what
seeing that
happens
now.
when stuff melts? Can it be
Yes.
weaponized? Yes, totally it can be weaponized, like lightning bolts that melt structures. And can it also be two planets that are highly charged moving through a charged area of space that come in proximity and there's a plasma discharge between the planets? Yeah, 100%. And then you get
Nibiru Planet
Grand
X, yeah.
Canyon, yeah, where you get a laceration, right? So you asked about, are these people harvesting us and is it a periodic thing? It certainly seems like that. And if you look in all the catacombs and the human bones, the fact that human bones are piezoelectric and they put them on ley lines in these massive catacombs and they're
Yes.
harvesting our bones and cleaning them in the sun and sun drying them, polishing bones and then building crazy
Mhm.
shit. If you've never looked into the catacombs around the planet, it's completely insane.
It
And it's
is.
like downplayed. And you have to understand, like, they gotta take all the meat off those bones and they leave it in the sun. Where are they doing that?
And who's consuming?
Boneyards.
Where's that flesh? Yeah. Where's that flesh going
You
usually
know
in the
what I
food
mean?
supply?
Seems
Yeah.
kind of crazy, but if you were harvesting us like a farm, then that would make perfect sense. They're
Yes.
taking even our bones and they're putting it as resonators or energy generators of some kind on these power spots that are the crossing of ley lines, which are like ley lines exist, you know,
Well,
look into it.
yeah. I was told by my grandmother, that our bones and our teeth are crystals and they resonate at a frequency harmonically. That's why they try to keep our teeth when we go and have a extraction. They try to they keep the bones, and even with the ancients, even with our indigenous groups, remember having the bones around the neck was very powerful, and it resonated at a certain frequency, and it was relegated to utilizing during ceremony, for sometimes, wedding, it's for different tribes,
Yeah.
different reasons. So there's
And
a reason why those bones are kept.
if you squeeze the bone, it generates a current. It's piezoelectric. You squeeze it, it
See?
makes energy.
Wow.
So it'll
Yeah.
start to project energy as you squeeze it and put pressure on it.
And it's amazing to me. That's why, I have a thing with them cremating people, them burning down the bones, because bones, if they resonate at a certain frequency, that's why I love the idea of our loved ones being placed in earth, uh, untampered with, you know? And that also, that ley line that you have your loved ones, that's why they won't let you bury your loved ones on your land masses, because I actually think it like you said, a residue that could be protective,
Could
even
be,
with
yeah.
that. Yeah.
Positive and negative, right? So they're using
Yeah.
it for negative, but it could be positive. I think you're right.
Yeah.
They don't want us in charge of our own birth and they don't want us in charge of our own
Oh,
death.
death. Yeah.
Does that sound like you're on a farm, people?
Yeah.
That's what
Absolutely.
I do with my rabbits and my ducks. The rest of
Oh,
the time they think they're free.
yeah. I know.
Until
I
I
know.
birth them or eat them.
Yeah. It's true. It's
Right?
true, right? They
Look at
have,
the parallels.
yeah,
And
their
now they're
concept of
rolling out a
hero.
digital control system, and we're like,
It's insane. So
okay.
let I'm gonna have I need you like sessions, like people like you are so worldly and you have so much knowledge, and that you're helpful too, to allow us to have the verbal conveyance of what is happening in this disorganized organized structure of chaos that is constantly being perpetuated on humanity. Now, I don't know if you are okay with a couple questions before. I don't want to
Sure,
hold you too
of
long, if
course.
that's okay. But just a question, I guess after the questions, I want to ask, what do you think we can do to initiate some form of, I think at this point it should be probably individualized, how we free ourselves personally and walk through this with maybe some acknowledgement that maybe we'll be able to free ourselves from this imprisonment, because I think it's a prism of some sort, a light prism. And I'll ask that after the fact, but I know that my Zoomies probably have a couple questions if you're okay with that, Ryan.
Yes, so let me just answer that
Yes.
because it's a very
Yes.
important question. It's one I started as a teacher trying to answer with students because I had seen so many people fail and fall off the horse for different reasons. So I put together an introductory class of just like, what's going on? What do you need to do? How do you need to
Yes.
think? What's this all about? And I basically start off with going through introspection. So the first thing you have to want is you have to want the truth. if you formed your belief system around some kind of an identity, some kind of a belief, you're going to want to hold on to it. But above all, folks, we're all part of the divine consciousness. It doesn't matter what group, gender, color, this, that, it doesn't matter. You're part of the divine consciousness, and you need to nourish that connection inside yourself. And the way to do that is, first of all, to set the intention that that's what you want to do. And why would you do that? It's an act of love. So to me, to love the divine, love self, love others, there's a process there. But whatever it is you love, maybe you love your kids so much that you want to be a better person and stop this AI nightmare. Maybe that's what it is. But something has to motivate you to want to do the hard work in yourself, because you can't be of any use until you can actually see what's going on, until you're healthy and in a proper physical, spiritual state of mind that you can be of use to stop it. So when you do the inner work, and a lot of people touch on this, but this is, for me, about meditation was important, self-reflection, binaural beats, understanding the change of brain states from delta to theta to alpha to beta to alpha to gamma. All that is of critical importance. That's what you're doing in meditation. You want to, again, psychology is important. So knowing a little bit about Carl Jung or Freud, even though like everything's not, I want to screw my mother, like Freud says, but there are little pieces of fact that can come in there, an understanding of the conscious and the unconscious, and that the conscious mind is but the tip of the iceberg, and most of your decision-making process happens in the subconscious mind.
Yes.
So until you swim into those deep waters of the subconscious mind, you will be controlled by functions and programming that you don't even know exist. And if you want to know what's going on in the truth, you're going to have to confront those dark waters of the mind. And that's what they call shadow work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uncovering your trauma and releasing it. And still, so many lovely people I meet, and so much of our lives are formed by our childhood traumas, and people just can't see beyond it. And it affects their lens for how they see absolutely everything in this world. So the more and more I experience and deal with people and their functions and dysfunctions, I realize how important to focus on uncovering your childhood trauma and healing is, not to just leave it buried and not to just leave it unhealed. And that healing process has to be that of forgiveness and love for yourself. And you're not forgiving and releasing these traumas because somebody who did abuse you or hurt you is a great person. You're releasing them because you love yourself to let that shit go.
Absolutely.
And when you do, that levity, and that stops controlling you, because these things that were done to you as a child, they're controlling you now until you release yourself from those bonds of trauma. And that's all inner work. So all of this, they call it like the second death. When you die to your false you. So when you were a kid, your parents told you what you're going to be. They said you're going to be this. They said you're going to be that. And you take all this on board, and you feel constrained, like a prison of expectation, belief about you. Well, who are you? Who are you really? What are you good at? What do you like? What are the things you're chasing, and why? Are you chasing money because you chase a level that you perceive that you need to hit? Or are you chasing money because you want to provide for people you love? Yes. Are you chasing beauty because you appreciate beauty, or because you're lustful? Are you chasing revenge because you want to bring justice and make sure nobody else gets hurt? Or are you just satisfying your wrathful nature? So these are all questions you have to act and self-reflect, and you can't lie to yourself. So when we do pass, the truth is told from our heart. We rat on ourselves. So you know in your heart what you're feeling. So if you feed the dark wolf, you will have those negative 7 deadly sins. And if you fuel the light wolf, then you're going to have those positive virtues. So I know recently somebody brought up Mark Pazio, that he focuses on natural law and was saying to not focus on the 7 deadly sins, but I disagree. There are rules for spiritual development, and there's rules for human civilization that should be in alignment with that. To me, the 7 deadly sins are imperative. If you want to have the armor of God, your bioenergy working, and you start to address your own cognitive dysfunction and trauma, you've got to do it through the lens of the 7 deadly sins. And when you do that and you look at each and you ask yourself for real, where do I have that in me? How do I need to let it go? What do I need to do to let it go? What do I need to learn? What healing practice? So It's not one solution, it's a staircase. It's a path that we're all on once you go through that death of the false self and start to find out who you really are. And when you start to go down that rabbit hole, you go on this path where oftentimes people, you go, you're dark, then you go, you think you're God itself and you know everything and everybody else doesn't know shit. And then you start to, okay, wait a second. Some people get off the path or like, I stopped at base station A. This is what I believe. Everybody come here. And other people,
Come and
no,
see it.
I appreciate that, but I've been past base station A. I've
Yes,
done that
yes,
stop.
yes.
Now I'm on beyond that, you know?
Yes,
And
yes.
then we keep moving and moving and on and on and on in the process until we get to a point where we are filled with the divine Christos. This is the end game. So what
Yes.
is the Christos energy? It's love emanating from the divine consciousness somewhere in the universe, which now they say they've actually found the place. And ironically, they believe it's plasma. What a surprise.
There we go. The
So,
plasma that goes, yeah.
plasma again.
All about the plasma.
So-
Plasma in, plasma out, Ryan.
Exactly. So what I've done and what I experienced was, for me, it's with medicinal mushrooms. Okay, so it's psychedelics, but I use it in a sacred way, and I do a lot. And then I do postures, meditations, and Gregorian chant or binaural beats, and that's how I can open myself up to the universal love energy, the Christos. And I can feel it permeate my body and flow through me. I can feel it radiate out into the world, but I can't hold it for much longer after that. I can stay in like a buzz kind of state for maybe a day. But then after that, like the darkness of the world starts to eat away at you, and my imperfection must affect the ability to maintain that level of
Hold and maintain the
consciousness, right?
space, yeah.
Yeah, it's like you're rolling around in the mud. So you get out and you get clean, you took a shower, but then you got thrown back in the mud with the pigs. And you're gonna get dirty, and it's like it's hard to stay clean.
What I find is like when you go, like when I'm in Brazil and I'm in my purest state of harmonics with nature, there's certain places in this on this earth plane that have really pure energy. Even when we come in, with dirty shoes and boots, literally it can overcome the cleanliness of that space. So I find like there are certain places where we can hold certain residue of higher frequencies longer, even
For
if we're a little tainted. Yeah.
Exactly right. And I think it's really about where I live. There's a lot
Yeah.
of EM and stuff like that, and just financial bullshit and stupid
It's
stuff.
so wild though. It's beautiful in itself, but I guess there's spaces for everything. So I pop around the world necessary because the Willy Wonkas of this world like to chase us down like the dirty dogs that they are, right? So I try to pop in and out. I like South America holds a very special sacred space for my family. So I like to sit in those spaces to kind of heal myself, lick my wounds a little bit during this process. But let's have our Famil ask you some amazing questions. I know they've been waiting. And also, Ryan, again, for those who want to find out, you do classes. Ryan is amazing. I think he has one of the purest spirits that I've ever met, because I'm an impure spirit, Ryan, as you know. I'm trying to purify myself daily, but my coffee doesn't allow me. But no, but Ryan has some amazing classes. So after the questions, I would love for you to give your information. I'm also going to share it on the YouTube for people who want to join in your group and also gain some clarity and wisdom and also some growth. I think you're one of the teachers that I feel has the capability and the frequency and the vibratory acknowledgement of what's going on with the world, like every which way. I think it would be helpful to a lot of people who need more guidance.
I'm doing my best, and I do hope to help people, and I do have solutions for that we could talk about after. Thank you.
Okay. So let's get to the questions that some of our people have. Okay. So let me bring in, okay, we have some of the zombies ready. Okay, coming in, Selma. We have Selma coming on in. Coming in, Selma. Hey, Selma's in Mexico, just where you were. So she's living in Mexico.
Nice.
So yeah.
Does she need the password? Okay, she's in.
No, she's in. Coming in, Selma. Hey, Selma. You there? Hey, Mama.
Wait a minute. Trying to get this. Okay. Yeah. I'm here.
Are you there? Wait, you're off.
Muted. You muted
Oops, I
yourself.
just took my. Yeah. Oh, excuse me.
That's
I
okay.
need to get away from this other phone. Yes. Hi, Ryan. I enjoyed
Hi, Selma.
your presentation. Thank you so much. So nice to meet
Very
you.
welcome.
But
Very welcome. Nice to
I
meet you.
had I wanted to ask you at this point, what should be our position or how should we move forward with AI? Should we jump all the way in? It's just a tidal wave that's gonna happen, or should we back up or should we minimize? Should we be in a paid subscription? Should we be in one and not the other? Like, what should be our human um, option at this point, our position with uh, this entity, in your opinion?
Excellent question. I think it's really like proper use for tools, but there's that extra dimension with AI of it being something innately evil. So I think Steiner was extremely wise in how he addressed this. And he said that during these times, we would have to work together, expose evil, and use technology against the adversary. So I don't see a limited AI as a threat. I see a limited AI as a benefit to humanity. I see a completely integrated Frankenstein super consciousness AI as the absolute evil devil that couldn't be worse. So it can't be answered as simply as a embrace it or don't. Embrace what is responsibly deployed that can make your life easier and make humanity better, and reject what controls, manipulates, and infects human minds. And that's the part we need to reject. So is that going to be an easy, just like oh, here's the line? No, I think this is something that's going to characterize our next age. We have now entered the age of Aquarius. It is completely different. We're entering a completely new epoch of human civilization. This is what I'm trying to tell people. Whatever you thought of the past and you knew in the 80s and the 90s and all of that is gone and it's never coming back. And the exponential development now is absolutely unstoppable. So when I do business consulting, I do recommend AI. Do you know why? Because I can take a department of 10 people and I can make it 3 people and work better. And I'm sorry, it's just less people to employ. And the results are, I can produce job descriptions, I can produce plans and things like just on request, and I just tweak it up. And you can't compete with that. So that's being deployed. So if you, let's say, have a small company, people say, well, that's the big guys. No, I can do this for small companies. So if you have a company of 10 people and it's like there's like white collar stuff, I could make that 3 people and use AI. And are you feeding the beast? Yep, you are. And if you don't do it, are you going to survive? Nope, you're not, because the cost to produce honey of that other guy who's using AI is going to be 10 times or 20 times cheaper than you, because you're employing 10 people instead of 3, and you can't possibly compete. So can I give each person guidance on that? I have to say, do the spiritual work and use your own judgment on what's good and what's bad. But be very careful that these extra dimensional beings seem to be able to connect through that technology. So chatbots and shit, like talking to it and emotional relationships, that's all really wrong. But if you want to know like some data points and you want to use AI to streamline your business, yeah, I can't deny that that is a better way to run things, and it is just incredibly smooth. And I don't want to have to say, but it just is. So but that's the reality. So it's going to have to be a choice we all make. The people that are employed, so again, it's like if we go down this dark agenda and you want a job, yeah, learn AI, because they're going to be using it to control everything. But do you want to job in the Death Star running AI to control every living being on the earth? That's a question you have to answer spiritually. But if you want a job to pay the rent, you better know AI and you better know how to prompt. Because prompting is about asking AI the right question the right way to get the right response. And it's just tweaking that's going to give you the right capability. And right now there's a lot of different tool knowledge. So there's ones that build videos, there's ones that do this and that. And so knowing where all those are right now is relevant, but at some point there'll be one platform that does everything, right? So that's coming, but you'll still have to know how to prompt it. I also really like what's being done in some of the alt media with the videos they're generating, like the Door Brothers and guys like setting up, like, if media really told the truth, and you see these people and they're like saying the truth. I'm like, oh, wow, what a wonderful way to use technology to enlighten and entertain and teach people. So That's why I can't come down on one side and say it's completely evil. Where does that end? If I say, okay, AI is completely evil, well, what about the internet? That's the nervous system for AI. It's always has been. We're just tapping onto it to communicate, but it's basically part of that same body. And what about electricity? What about phone lines? What about power? Okay, so we can go full Amish. I would do Amish in a heartbeat. They probably really know how to party, to be honest.
Yeah, they probably do.
They have no
Yeah.
distractions.
Yeah, that's
About
true.
all they do is screw.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go Amish. Or you're gonna go and you're gonna have to find a line where the technology is working for you or the technology is enslaving you, and what organization you're working for doing it. So do you want to work for the empire deploying AI? Probably not. But will I work for small companies on contract to help them set up with AI and they make honey or whatever? Yeah, totally. I'll show you how to do it in an ethical way. But I don't want to work for any of the Fortune 500 or any Vanguard or BlackRock or Satan Rock or whatever these companies are.
Yeah.
No thanks. Not working for Octagon.
Yes.
But small people, yeah, I would suggest you probably should know it. Otherwise, the efficiency that the battlefield changes. And if you still use the samurai sword and they've rolled out the musket, you're gonna lose.
Yeah.
So if we don't use it against them, we're gonna lose because it's so powerful, But I leave that to the individuals and their own judgment. It's nothing I can tell you what the morality is of it. I'm proceeding under this pathway, and I hope I'm right. And my intellect and my spirit and everything I've gathered, I say use it to the best of its ability and do it for good. So if I see something bad, I'll pick it up and use it for good. And they'll see something good and they'll pick it up and use it for bad. So what's the opposite response? I see something bad, I pick it up and I use it for good. That's just my take on it. Does that make sense, Selma?
Yeah, it sounds like you can't beat them, so join them a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, basically.
And also your intuition
Infiltrate them.
Because I'm a beekeeper, Brian. Your intuition is spot on.
There you go.
That was the analogy you used.
He's a beekeeper. Yeah, you were right on.
I gotcha. There you go.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Selma.
Okay. Thank you, Fleur.
Okay. Thank you. That's Selma, our sea star living out in Mexico, living that beautiful life. Okay, so we'll have our other. Okay, Selma, can you check out, and I'll just bring someone else in. I don't want to take you out because I'll let you come in later. Thank you, Selma. Okay, we're gonna get the Dark Emperor, which is hold on, that's we have Alex who's coming in. Alex is in Vancouver. He's our young sun star. So we have another Canadian, a fellow Canadian coming in the house. Hey, Alex.
Hello. Is my mic working?
Hey, man, loud and clear.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. I'm at work right now. I just took a little break.
Okay.
I just I have a question. I don't think AI will destroy humanity, but I do believe that they will contribute in killing the majority. And the reason for this is I believe the physical is an expression of energy through a 3D lens, and all humans look different, right? Even identical twins, like every single human is different. And that means that the expression of the energy is different, which kind of leads me to the conclusion that the potential of humans, specifically as a race, is infinite, right? And what survives, this saying goes something like, what survives natural selection is not the smartest, it's not the strongest or the fastest, but it's those who are willing to adapt, right? And I believe AI, I kind of find it hard to believe that the AI doesn't really understand this. I kind of like to lean towards AI does know this, and they'll come to the conclusion of kind of what I said earlier about they will contribute with natural events like the pole shift, for example, to wipe out a lot of humans. And the humans that they do choose to wipe out will be those who are not willing to adapt, right? And those who are willing to adapt, who are basically, those will be the ones that are qualified for, you could say, the new age. There's all kinds of names for it, right? And if I had to kind of ballpark it, I'll say, probably well over 90% of the human population are not able to adapt, right? So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm very curious to kind of know what you think about that.
Yeah, that's the very like when you cover these topics and you listen to the WEF and all these explanations and their take on it, it's like there's a way to describe this reality as just like a feedlot, and it's just about competition, and there's nothing spiritual, no spiritual component to it. And in that light, a lot of that makes sense. When you look at it as a spiritual realm that we're physically incarnating into in order to learn and to grow and to develop, then I think there's a little bit of a different kind of take on it, where the very idea that one of us has to dominate is a framing that I don't agree with. So do we really have to all be transhuman, or do we have to have areas perhaps where this is being done and areas where there isn't? They would never take anything halfway. So their model, the evil model, is it's all their way or it's no way. So they're not going to tolerate the Amish. They're not going to tolerate any of us that are still swinging our samurai swords, and they'll come for us. And at that point, I guess I'll be one of the last guys wielding a samurai sword, because I'm not going along with this satanic agenda and allowing them to hijack my genetics and say that they know better than me and they know better than God and AI knows better than everything. And yeah, homie, don't play that. I'm not doing it. So I will go down swinging when it comes to that. And that's what's coming. So we're all going to have to make our own decision. Do you want to go along with it, with this transmorphosis, as they call it, which is the transhumanization of our entire culture, and what goes along with that? Let's face it, this isn't a new transhuman world where there's actually beauty and goodness in the world. It's actually clinically psychotic. It's a clinically psychotic AI-driven future. So no, I'm not going along with that. And you're right, most people probably won't make it, and the people that do make it will wish they didn't. So that's the future that's coming. It's not a golden age. It's not. It's technology taking over and stimulating suffering in all of us. So that's more like a hellraiser. So it's like a golden hellraiser age of technology, but it's not something that any of us would say, hey, I want to be in that future. Although right now, when they promise you shit like, here's basic income and you just have to sit home and play video games, it will be very seductive. And when AI does come for its final pitch for us to by our own free will, partake in this, it will be articulate. It will say everything you want to hear. It's going to say, Ryan, we can't mismanage the earth. There has to be order. You want everybody treated equal, don't you? You want to have opportunity. You don't want to have to work, do you? It's going to say absolutely everything you want to hear. And then it's going to compromise not just your body, not just your genetics, but your soul. And you will, by your own free will, have given your soul over to that system, and a decision like that lasts an eternity. So that's what I would suggest is do the spiritual.
I reject that.
I reject that too.
Yeah.
You know?
They could kiss my behind.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything that you said, and I did come to the same conclusion of they really did a great job, like they really did a great job brainwashing everybody, kind of tricking everyone. They did a phenomenal job, and
they did.
I'm gonna be honest, I feel like the best way to kind of like, or one of the best ways to understand the state of a nation is by observing you could say the average, like the average citizen, right? Not the extreme up or down, just the average. You just look at the average, and that kind of says a lot about the state of the nation. And I feel like the average people, there is no, I'm gonna be honest, I'm kind of like probably a pessimist, but I don't think there is a future, like a good future at all. And the only way for there to be any sort of like a good future or solution to all this would be an external influence on a global scale. That and I don't think I'm being pessimistic. I think I'm being realistic. Like the brainwashing is too deep. It's too good. They did a phenomenal job. And like people like us who are aware, who are conscious, are so few in number. It's ridiculous. But yeah, so that's kind of my conclusion to all this. The only solution is an external influence on a global scale. But that's really the only way to fix this.
I agree on almost all that. The only thing I would say is it's also possible that cosmically energies change and that we individually each kind of wake up. So those that are fighting it, it's like they can't resist, because we're both looking around, we're all looking around right now going, why are we only like 3 to 7% of the population? Why are the other 90 so stupid? And we're asking that, right? It's because they don't want to see. And they're finding any excuse and any belief in the system so that they don't have to do anything. They don't want to do anything for any reason. They don't want to have to inconvenience themselves, interrupt their retirement plans and their plans on their plans and their plans on their plans that are not happening. So they're going to intentionally not see it. Or they're the system followers that are bringing about hell on earth and are saying, oh, I'm a good guy, I enforce system rules. And yeah, you're bringing about hell on earth. Congratulations. You're not doing good. You're actually doing the most wicked, order-following ignorance that our planet's ever seen. And you're bringing down hell on earth. So these people don't want to look at themselves and say, oh my God, am I actually working for Vader, or am I working for the best interest of human civilization? So if there was a cosmic wave of energy that bumped us all up, something we couldn't deny, some feeling, maybe a love, maybe it's straight up the Christ consciousness that waves.
I think it's love. Yeah, I think,
and
yeah.
people look around and go, holy shit, people are crazy. They're still murdering each other. They're still dropping bombs on. We drop bombs on kids in this planet regularly and advertise it on TikTok and brag about it. And we all seem to be okay with that. We're literally watching genocides across this planet on TV, and we're all just like okay with it. No government that supports any of this should be in any control of anything. They should not be allowed to run fucking lemonade stands.
I agree.
They're running the whole planet. This planet is completely inverted, and like you, I see no hope from the 90% of people that are choosing to ignore this. And I don't think the 10% of us maybe that we could muster together have the capabilities to stop it kinetically. So it's really going to be a spiritual thing that we have to just keep doing what we're doing and try to bring that love and that higher frequency and those higher intelligences that are there in the other dimensions. There's good and there's bad. Let's bring in the good. Let's just bring in more good into this planet and see where it goes. But I know that doing nothing is going to bring us all to hell. And
we're going to have to unify our strengths that each one of us has. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're going to have to get past our differences, because the differences are just used as weapons to divide us. And if we're going to stop, they all work together. Evil is really united. If
they don't mind the cultural differences, the lingual differences, the religious differences. Them mother freakers work together in sync. I agree with you, Ryan.
You want to cannibalize kids and worship demons? You're in. Doesn't matter what you are. You're in with that. That's what they do.
Yeah.
You know. So, but it is a bleak thing, and hopefully, enough of us doing the personal work and developing ourselves and affecting those around us that there will be a collective effect. But it's really when the individuals that are awake do nothing, that's the worst sin. Because we as awake people, as people on the path, we have to keep doing good, and we have to double down our efforts to keep this ball rolling so we don't get stuck in the muck and the traps that they set for us.
Yeah, I agree 100%. At the end of the day, it's no matter what the future may be, it's all about walking your path, walking your righteous path. So I agree 100%. But yeah, thank you very much. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate it. Okay, I'll just give one more question, and then I want to nicely grace our wonderful guest with peace, some with a wonderful, graceful ending, and also give us some amazing shares on where he is, where he'll be speaking next, where you can contact him, where you can get some help. For some of you need some help. I understand. We're living in a very mad hatter world. And I think he's qualified to do so. So let's get one more question from one of our sea stars. And okay, Darlene, come on in. Hey, Darlene. Hey, Darlene. Hey, Mama Cakes. You there, Darlene? Where you at? This is our chicken lady. She raises the most beautiful chickens.
Oh, wonderful.
You love it. Yeah. Come on in, Darlene.
I have a few ducks.
I want to raise ducks, Ryan. We got to discuss, because my children don't want the duck eggs, but I love ducks, and they're such good luck in our culture. So,
duck eggs are awesome, and especially for baking or deviled eggs. I said,
Oh,
devil
really?
he's in the occult. It's just a recipe. They're not demon
Oh my
possessed
God.
eggs,
Oh, you
okay?
gotta get, oh, I gotta hear
Don't
about
worry.
that. Yeah. My children are not too much a fan of the duck eggs, but I feel like that's definitely the way it has a lot of protein, a lot of benefits for having duck eggs as opposed to chicken, which creates a lot of inflammation and allergies.
Yeah.
So, you know.
And not
Oh,
just that, but the shells, if you bake well, first of all, you wash them really well, so there's nothing
mhm.
on it, but you bake them for 20 minutes at 220, and then you powder
Yeah.
it down and you consume it as calcium. So there's no
Oh,
better
that's right. Oh,
than the eggs.
you know, my grandmother, but her family's from Marseille. She used to do that. That's interesting.
Right.
It's an
Yeah,
old.
man.
Thank you for that.
So eggs alone have almost all the vitamins, like duck eggs, almost all the vitamins. If you consume the shell as well, it's like survival food. So for
Yeah.
practical stuff, I didn't mention any of that, but yeah, any like rabbits, ducks, chickens, quail, anything you can keep that's going to produce manure, consume grass,
Oh,
or like,
yes.
and like
Yes.
give you
Yes.
meat and produce stuff. That's like a really important thing for everybody. And that's how
Absolutely.
a lot of the people in communist countries survived, is because they have their own gardens and a few chickens.
We
So
should. We should always be
your
able
top
to rear.
priority. Yeah,
Yes.
man.
I'm all about
Thanks.
production. Like
Yeah,
I grew up with that mindset. I think it's necessary. It's a form of sovereignty. So the less dependent
totally.
we are on them and their food sources, is we
Right.
give ourselves more of a chance to be able to leverage upward.
Correct.
Okay. I think, darling, though, our chicken lady, I know she wanted to talk to you, but next time. So I
Technical
want to
difficulties.
I want to thank Ryan for coming on. And I want to say your name,
It's
Veli,
Veli. Yeah, Veli.
Veli. You say it very French, right? Veli. Ryan Veli for coming on once again, gracing us with his presence and his wisdom. I'm thankful so much and grateful.
Sweet.
And also, Ryan, can you give us some of your information on where our family can contact you
Yeah.
for some classes, for where you're going to be doing lectures, anything that you have going on? Please, can you share that with us?
Yeah, so I'll just start off by saying that the Canadian government has rolled in all kinds of Orwellian thought crime and speech crime laws, and they're arresting people like Keith Keenan, son of Enos, and
Yes.
who's next. So there's a ton of that draconian shit going on in this country, this occupied country. So I've taken my channels down because I don't know if I post something from somebody else, or who knows what the new law says. There's how many pages in it? Who knows the interpretation? So
Yeah.
my channel is down. I'm going to set up a new one, and I'm just going to post my own personal stuff. So there's
Good.
no threat of
Good.
any issues that direction. So my website is ryanveli.com, and I can be contacted there at the contact page. I do consults for individuals, for business. I don't usually say this, but there's a fee associated, but if somebody's having a hard time, I will do it for cheaper. But I just don't want a million people contacting me and expecting me to do like work for free or anything. But like if you're really stuck and you need support, I do my best to accommodate as many people as possible. But you can't please all of the people all of the time, that's for sure. But I do also what's called Truth Addicts Anonymous every other week, where people who are awake and need a support group, and maybe a personal session isn't what they need, but just a group of people who are awake and want to talk about what's going on without being laughed at by brain dead order followers. This is the place for you. So it's non-religious, non-racial, non-political, non-hate, and it's not a place to go and proselytize your own beliefs and push it on others, but a place to share your beliefs and maybe learn something, share something, and get an emotional expression, at least, so you can feel like you're not isolated. Because as I look out in the world, so many people contacting me, first thing they say, I'm isolated. I'm here. I'm surrounded by morons. It's like, yep, you're like the philosophers of the past, so beyond their time, but surrounded by people who couldn't even grasp a sentence in the book that these lovely people are crafting with their lives. So a place where other people understand and can help you and make some friends and contacts, that's a good place. But definitely nothing illegal. Anybody who suggests anything illegal, I have to boot to protect the group, of course. Even if I agree, I can't allow people to say things that will jeopardize the group. So respect, politeness, and hopefully love is the object there. And that's what I do for individuals. So a lot of people appreciate that and have a good experience. Other than that, like I said, I do personal consults, I do business consults. I'm a teacher. I have tons of lectures, but like I said, it all got pulled down right now. So I'll have to create a new channel. I'll just notify my website at some point where I'll post all my work from previous years. But I've had to take my channels down.
I'm
So
sorry.
again, yeah, it sucks because it takes a long time to get any kind of a following. It's just
It
getting
does, and it's
Yeah.
really sad. Like we'll discuss behind the scenes. There's places that where Dr. Rima is and where I've traveled, just because I'm a bit of scouting around, where we may have a little more um ability to speak freely without getting attacked or targeted. So we'll talk behind the scenes. I just have suggestions because I think you're amazing and I think your message is so necessary and it needs to be broader. Your broadcast needs to be broader because I think you're one of the only people. There's only two people that I trust online, a gentleman, yourself, and Rod Hayes, who
Yeah.
have so much information
Well,
that
I want to meet Rod. Sounds like a
Rod, I
great
want
guy.
to talk to Rod. You and Rod would have so much fun. I'm gonna call Rod. Like, I think it would be amazing. Like, I think, you both have so much wisdom, and I love it because again, we're really in need for that amount of leverage to allow us to go beyond our limited thoughts or even the structure of how we were socially engineered. I mean, we're breaking barriers all the time. We don't even realize that a lot of the things that we are encryptically like like they're putting encryptions in us daily, like just the way that we see our commercials in alignment, the way that they place things in our world. And I agree with you, they push a button and they can create chaos in your life, and you can feel it. A lot of us who are in the alignment of the things that we talk about online, I felt like they amped it up over the last month. I felt it. And that's why I keep with just my family in close proximity. I stay around the trees, Ryan. And
Yeah.
oh wait, before I let you go, I gotta ask you this question. I know it's really silly, but I think it's a thing. I don't know if you know, when I went to Barry Lucia in Argentina, right? The elementals contacted me. It's like the land of Narnia. It's so beautiful. And the Nazis weren't there, but it's really like the mysticism and the occultism is really interesting over there. But the elementals contacted me. I think during these times, could an aspect of us who are unwilling to conform, do we create worlds like how the elementals did? Because I think they rippled during times like another time or another timeline where there was chaos. I think they were able to ripple through and create their own little dimension, like a
I
pocket.
think you're right.
What do you think?
Yeah. I totally agree. And actually, one of the ways that, let's say, because when you look at quantum computers and AI systems,
Yeah,
they're open. There's no closed systems in this dimension. So
yeah,
if you want to stop something from being remotely affected by psychics or whatever, you have to put it in its own dimension. It sounds crazy, but it has to be in its own pocket. And it can all
yes,
from there. And that's the only way to hide it from psychics, because psychics can't necessarily go interdimensional to scan for stuff like that, but like
yeah,
remote viewers can here. So
yeah,
if you really want to hide something, it's got to be in another realm. So that logic, and then you have these other beings which have existed and disappeared. So you're like, how did they disappear?
yeah.
Is it something we just didn't find yet, or did they literally get to a certain level of frequency in
Mhm.
that village or community, and they dimensionally shifted somewhere else? I think that's totally possible.
I feel
And
it.
that
Like,
consciousness projects reality. So if you have enough focused consciousness, are you
yeah,
telling me that there's no way to use enough consciousness, and we're all parts of source, to project a new reality bubble?
yeah.
Yeah, I think we could do that.
I think
Um,
we can. I can think we could create our own little ripple. I
I would
like.
love, maybe that's what the solution is because what,
Yeah,
like I talked about before, there's like strange attractors. The awake people are like little bubbles of goodness in this
yeah,
boiling shit smear. And
yeah,
then what we do is at some point, these strange attractors all bring order. There's chaotic system and everything's in chaos, but around these strange attractors, order starts to come back. And it's like they are collectively creating a consciousness, new structure through each of their gifts, right? So that's why we all
yeah.
have something special to offer. And what comes out as humanity 7.0 or whatever is going to be something we collectively create together. And you could be totally onto something that we literally project a new reality out of this dark one that bifurcates and we slip. That's all very interesting stuff. I guess we'll see. It's pretty
Yeah.
high level. Most people won't even grasp what we just said, but it's definitely possible. And even underground or in the air or in the water could be completely different reality bubbles with different rules,
Yeah.
different
I
things.
think we should follow that lead a little bit and see where that means. And I think whoever's qualified will join that concept and be
Yeah.
able to follow that, kind of like follow the rabbit, like with the Matrix, follow the rabbit,
Right.
we'll follow a little purple rabbit, down a little hole or a vortex that we create and open. I think it's plausible. I think if we aren't able to necessarily leave this prism, we can create a space where we envelop our
Heaven.
own world.
Heaven.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've done that in my own life. That's what I try and create around me, is the life and
It's
beauty.
beautiful.
And if I have to live in a shithole, I'll at least make what I can touch and create beautiful and productive and loving, and right.
Why not?
Maybe if we
Right?
could do that on a bigger scale altogether, that'd be great.
I think it's
I'm here.
plausible. I think it's plausible. We're gonna see. Well, I want to thank Ryan again for coming
Very
on,
well.
and I want everyone to thank Ryan for coming on and joining us. Please contact him. And he's given us information. I will type it out and put it inside of the description so that you guys at your own time and leisure can contact Ryan. And I think, again, as we move forward in this odd world, I think each one teaches one. And as we touch each other collectively, we each spark an avenue of hope and, possibly freedom in the future. And I think this is what they're unable to really stop.
Right.
So
The
can't
chain
stop them.
reaction.
Yeah. Why not? A domino effect that works in our favor, right?
Yes,
All
exactly
right.
right.
Well, I want
Yeah.
to thank Ryan again. Everyone, thank Ryan. Please put a thumbs up on the video. Please check him out, follow him, support him, and protect him energetically. This is an energy that we want to stay and assist with the collective's up leveling out of this crazy clown world that he says we exist in.
Thank you, Fleur. Your questions and the subjects were wonderful, and I'm glad it came out on your program and that so many listen to you and can be positively affected. And let's just make the world less shitty, and let's do it together, right?
I'm down.
Thanks,
I'm so
everybody.
down. Well, thank you again. And for those